Confidence is not a fluke, confidence is a choice, and it begins with our mindset. In this podcast, you will find a variety of research proven strategies that will lead you from being self critical, your worst enemy, to being the most confident version of yourself. I am Olga, former therapist, confidence life coach, blissfully an IVF mother, a wife, and this is the Journey to Happy podcast. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Journey to Happy podcast. I'm Olga, your host. If you're new to the podcast, hi, nice to meet you. If you are an oldie, I am so excited that you keep listening. I recently was looking at the stats and there seems to be a lot more listens into the podcast, and that excites me so much. If you ever listen to an episode that really speaks to you and it makes you think of somebody else, I ask you from the bottom of my heart that you share the episode and the podcast with anybody who you think could benefit. The reason I have this podcast period is because I want to help as many people as I can transform their mindset. Truly, that's my biggest desire and wish and hope in life. That's my legacy. If I died tomorrow, I want to know that I left somewhere an imprint of my work. And so I pride myself on coming to these episodes ready to share and to help. And so if you found something helpful here, rather than keeping it to yourself only, share it. Other people can listen in. Okay. Also, I don't know if you are not following me on Instagram, but if you're not, you really should. For example, I'm just coming off having gone live for 5 consecutive days, giving coaching tips on how to change thinking patterns. People are loving them. And so I often put lots of great content on Instagram. Very little is it about things that are not related to mindset. Of course, I have an open book. So I do share a bit of my life and what I'm up to. And I find that the responses we get mostly from Instagram are people appreciating the content that we put. So if you'd like to sign up here on Mondays to listen to this, and you would sort of like to have an everyday reminder of mindset, join me inside Instagram at Olgas, OLGAS.way. That's my handle. You can find me, say hi. I want to know who you are. It is one of the weirdest things. I was speaking to another podcaster, and her and I were saying how odd it is that I am sitting in my office all by myself with a microphone. And in this case, I can see myself in the video, and I am sharing all my thoughts, all my ideas, but I'm not talking to anybody in particular. It's just something that feels lonely, you guys. So if you do listen to these episodes, and I hope you do, and if you don't like them, if you like them, if you've had some wins by listening to the podcast, let me know. I want to know. I really want to know. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What do you like? Also, when you guys download an episode that you enjoy and share it, I can see the stats and I can see what subjects you guys want me to talk most about. Okay, all of my rant is over now. I promise I'll start coaching. I'm actually very excited. At the time of recording this, I just found out that the lockdown that we've been currently under, it's coming to an end. And although my life doesn't change much with a lockdown, I cannot wait to go back to a restaurant and not have to cook a meal. Although with order is not the same. It's just like going out somewhere. That's something that my husband and I love doing. And so I'm excited. But most importantly, I am going back to the hot yoga room. And guys, that gets me so happy and excited, especially during really cold winter months and days. Like at the time I'm recording this is middle of January, and it's like minus 30 outside. You guys are listening to this in the spring, and it's already hopeful. Start seeing the flowers out and the leaves coming out of the trees, and it smells like spring if you guys live in a country with seasons. But you guys, the hot room is such a beautiful escape for me. I feel that I am by the beach. I feel happy. I feel warm. I feel sweaty. All the things that I never thought I would absolutely adore in the middle of winter, but I do. And so I don't know if you guys practice hot yoga. I highly recommend it. I have a cousin who is visiting at Christmas, and he is an Ironman champion. And he went skiing and then had an injury. And for those of you who don't know, I am a Reiki master. So he asked me to do some Reiki on his knee that was a bit injured. And as I'm doing Reiki, I feel like there is so much tension on his tendons and muscles. And so I was asking him, like, when do you stretch? Like, I know you practice, you train so hard, but do you stretch? And he's like, not really. Guys, I'm on a mission to take him to a hot yoga class, because athletes often see yoga as like this relaxing space, which it is relaxing in the end, but it's also hard work and it's great work, especially if you're training and conditioning really hard. I highly recommend it. Okay, that's it. I promise. That's all. Anyways, I've got with me my happiness box. And my happiness box has quotes in it. And sometimes I read you guys from here. And because today's episode subject, it's one that many of us would want to avoid altogether. But hey, emotional pain is part of being alive. So we are going to talk about emotional. Most specifically, I want to talk about the fear of having emotional pain and the extent to which we go to avoid it. So anyways, I thought I would warm up you guys with a quote. And I took one out and it says, don't ever put the key to your happiness in the hands of someone else. Thank you, universe. Thank you, happiness box. Sometimes I'm shocked. How does it know what we're going to talk about? Other times I'm like, we'll see how this relates. I think I like it. I think I like it. Do not put the key of your happiness in somebody else's hands. How does that relate to the fear of emotional pain? I can think of some connections. I can absolutely see how this links. Oh my God, I'm telling you, the universe has my back every single time. Okay, no more. I'll be sipping through my delicious London fog while I talk to you guys. I told you it's like -30 outside. So my husband, God bless him, brought me my favorite drink upon my request. He didn't think about it. I had to ask, but I'm so happy I did because I'm enjoying this drink on this very cold winter day. Okay. Fear of emotional pain. Why I want to talk about it is because I find myself as a life coach, specifically as a mindset life coach, that a lot of the conversations I'm having with my clients are surrounding avoidance of pain. And that emotional pain can also be anxiety. It's emotional pain. You guys know that I do some work with our local children's hospital. Every so many times a year, I give a talk to parents who are in bereavement. We often come back to the thought of, how would I ever do this again if they lost a pregnancy? How would I, like, what level of courage would I need to have, because I am full of fear of experiencing this emotional pain again. And this is not unique to parents who have lost their children or babies or pregnancies. This is not unique to grief. This is really a real human problem that we have. We've got these emotions, and some are great to feel, and others we've labeled as not so great to feel. And those that are painful, they're not pleasant. And we almost begin to have anxious about having the anxiety. We begin to have anxious about having the emotional pain. And so we actually create pain even before we've got pain, just thinking and imagining that we will experience pain in the future. One of my favorite books that I think you guys need to read is from Brené Brown, who is a social worker like myself. And she's done research. She was a researcher, and now she's an author, and she's got many books, and you can read them all. I have. But my favorite to date continues to be Daring Greatly. Daring Greatly is an amazing book that came out of her research of what was special about the happiest people in the world. And what she realized that the happiest people were not necessarily those who have not had any pain, but were those who had pain and happy moments. And no matter what emotion they were having, they had chosen to feel the emotion, to be vulnerable, to not have a resistance or a limitation as to how long they were going to feel the way they were feeling, but they were willing to feel it all. Those in her research were the happiest people. So in her book, she goes on to explain the perceptions that we might have about emotional pain that actually come to hinder our ability to connect. So those of us who are willing to live with the risk of potential emotional pain also have the strongest, most authentic connections to humans around us from such a beautiful place. So what is emotional pain? You might have a definition of it. I might have a definition of it. We can all agree it's something nobody wants to feel, period. And when you're in it, you want out of it. I had a client who had a lot of emotional pain, and it took a while for her to get out of that emotional pain. She was processing it at her own pace, but her own pace did not match her timeline in her head, what she would have hoped and wanted to feel emotional pain for. And the thing is, because it's unpleasant, most of us want to get out of it as quickly as we can, as possible as we can. So this client kept messaging me. My CEO clients, becoming the CEO of your own life clients, have access to me through WhatsApp or Boxer. And so we voice message, voice memo often. And this one client kept messaging me like day after day, week after week. How long is this going to last? And when would I get out of here? So one thing that accompanies or that prolongs, in my opinion, emotional pain is lack of patience. When we're not patient to process the emotion, we're less likely to feel it and to let it go through us. I remember, I'll bring you back to a very stressful day of my life. I remember the morning after I found out my dad had been kidnapped. My dad was kidnapped for 4 months by a terrorist group in Colombia, randomly selected. They liked his car, they picked him up, and he was in captivity for 4 months. The morning after I found out that he had been kidnapped, I felt all the feelings, but primarily I felt fear of losing him, fear of like sincerely being at risk of something else happening to our family, to just fearful. We were experiencing so much fear. But I also felt a lot of sadness, and that sadness was with me for the entire 4 months my dad was gone. It was like an unresolved grief because we just didn't know, and a grief that involved unknown. We don't know where he is, we don't know if he's good. And the combination of fear and sadness felt really heavy and intense. And I remember thinking, and I was 19 years old when this happened. I remember one day being so sad and crying, and I'm highly emotional, so I feel things 10 times fold. And I remember thinking, I am going to feel all these feelings until they dissolve, but I am not going to avoid them. Sincerely, probably the greatest thing I've done in my life, because today that traumatic life experience doesn't keep a hold of my sanity in any way or my emotional well-being. So I want to walk you through what that looks like. It is losing the fear of being in emotional pain. When you're in it, there is nothing you can do about preventing the pain. You're in it. When you're in it, there's nothing you can do to rush the process. And I want to bring you back to a beautiful analogy that they use in mindfulness to teach this process of just processing emotions. And nobody would ever doubt that a caterpillar will become a butterfly. Like, we don't look at a caterpillar and think, would it become a butterfly? Who knows? We might never. What if it doesn't? We just assume, no, for fact, a caterpillar is step one of an eventual butterfly. We trust that. So when we're in emotional pain, we lack the trust that we're going to be okay, that we're transforming into the next us. And that's exactly what pain does. It sheds a layer of ourselves, not because it was bad, not because it was good, because we're growing in this human experience. And so that kind of sheds off. The same analogy is used to say we don't rush a caterpillar to become a butterfly. Like the last summer, I had a cow. For those who can see me, there is a window, massive window in my office, which I love, like lets the sun in, lets the moonlight in. It's beautiful. Last summer, I had a caterpillar hanging from the outside corner of the window. And I watched that caterpillar grow and grow and grow until one day it wasn't there. And I love that because it reminded me of this analogy. We don't rush it. I never thought this caterpillar will never make it. I never thought of protecting it. I never thought of saying, oh my God, when are you going to become a butterfly? You've been hanging off my window for like 2 months. Come on, move on. I was observing, which is step number 2. Observe your emotional pain, but do not judge it and do not rush it. You cannot physically rush it. It's an illusion of your mind that you think you can move along your feelings quickly. But this, I will tell you from my own personal experience, when you make the decision that you are going to feel your emotional pain entirely and you let yourself feel it, it does allow you to process it faster. The only way out is through. When you're going through hell, you have to keep walking. Keep walking. It comes to an end eventually. So the fear we have about being emotional pain is, what if it lasts forever? What if I stay in this state forever? And those days are so sad or so lonely or so nerve-wracking. Those are the moments when our mind wants to tell us this is going to be forever. This is the new you. And it's not true. You can come back to this episode as many times as you want to hear me say it's not true. Everything comes to an end, especially our emotions. Think of the last time you were happy. Were you happy forever? No. Do you ever worry that you're going to be happy forever? No. Do you ever worry that you're going to be sad forever? Yes. Why? Why do we select? With this one, I will worry, but with that one, I won't, and just let it be. I'll let it see come to an end and now pick up again. Your emotional pain comes with your human experience. The two things come together. You cannot be a human and not have emotions. You cannot choose to be 100% giving if you're not willing to potentially and eventually have emotional pain. When we avoid emotional pain, we build up walls and we think we're doing the right thing. We're like, hey, I've loved enough. I've suffered enough. I'm building up walls now. The walls do a great job at isolating you, at making you feel lonely, and most importantly, at disconnecting you from humans. You lose your ability to have an authentic, real connection, the kind of connection that makes our souls vibrate, makes us feel human and happy and teary-eyed when we see something beautiful happen on the other side. That's where you're risking losing the moment, missing it all completely. I am coming to you, and I get watery eyes thinking about this. I am coming to you as a human who's experienced a fair amount of emotional pain. And you know what? I'm not afraid of emotional pain. I think back of like the pains I've had, and I'm like, oh my God, how did I even overcome that? That was so painful. But I no longer remember in my brain like the pain aspect because I process it so well that it's gone, deleted from my memory. Bye-bye. The only time that thinking back of our emotional pain still relieves pain is because we're not processing it. I might get emotional about thinking back of some of the experiences I've had because I had so much compassion for me. And quite honestly, I'm so impressed that I fucking did it. I went through it. And so when we do have the courage to feel all the emotions, including emotional pain, and we can see that fear in the eye, like we look at the monster in the closet and say, I see you, that fear diminishes. It's not so scary, the monster. When I see the monster and I look at it and say, hey, I see you. The monster inside the closet is only scary when we don't want to look at it. We just imagine that it's there, we hear that it's there, but we don't want to look at it. We're avoiding it. So engrave this in your brain right at this moment. Avoidance is the absolute secure, fastest route to prolonging your emotional pain. If you're a human being, and I hope you are, because if you're not, God knows who's listening to me, know that emotional pain comes with this human experience and it varies. And sometimes it's really deep and sometimes it's not so bad. And it is normal to be afraid of it. And it's obvious that we don't want to feel it and that therefore we want to resist it. But the more you feed the thoughts that tell you that emotional pain is bad and should be avoided, the more you resist it, the less able you are to process it. And what you really want to do is process it. So my clients who are type A want to get things done right. They want to grieve properly. They want to do things properly. Ask me, what do you mean by processing it? Listen, your way of processing might be entirely different than mine and that the next person. All I know is that if you don't figure it out with curiosity and observe and stop rushing it and let it be and have the courage to feel the feeling without adding mental drama, that you will be the person that in 10 years from the event that caused you emotional pain, you'll be talking about it. And people around you who don't know that it's been 10 years will think that this just happened to you. Because the way you talk about it, the way you express yourself, the fear, the feeling that you're having seems like you're still living it and you are still living it. There is a saying in Spanish that I have always used when it comes to emotional pain. And I'm going to try to translate it. And I don't know if it's going to make much sense, but hopefully it will. And it's something along the lines of, it is better to have a painful end of a scenario, so an end that is painful, than a pain without end. And so normally we say that about relationships. Okay, if it's not working and it hurt you that it ended, it's better than having this pain prolonged the rest of your life. But I used it never for relationships, but always for my emotional pain. I used to think, I don't want to live in emotional pain the rest of my life. That's for sure. I'm going to accept that that's part of my living condition, human condition, that there will be moments of emotional pain. But because I believe in the impermanency of things that mindfulness has taught me, I know pain comes to an end, another emotion begins, and then that one comes to an end and another emotion begins. But I will choose to believe that I am better off processing this all at once, having all of these emotions, let them be as big as they want to be, lose the fear, because I will still self-contain. I can contain my emotions because I'd rather they come to an end altogether than have this pain stay with me the rest of my life. You guys, I give this advice even to parents in bereavement. You gotta make a choice. Doesn't matter how traumatic the event is, you can still choose how to process and if you're going to process it. And you can still choose to say, I'm going to feel this to the extent of the feeling. And if it takes me months or years, that's fine. I've got time. I will become a butterfly. I will be free from whatever keeps me in this cocoon, and I will transform into the next version of myself. Life is about transformation. We're not the same person we were when we were 8 months old, 1 year old, 5 years old, 10 years old. I am not the same person I was 2 years ago or a year ago. Nobody is. We're constantly transforming, whether we are aware of it or not. So emotional pain often does come to shed us head to toe. A whole new version of you. I know for a fact I wouldn't be a life coach had it not been for that life event that brought me to Canada, that taught me all this emotional pain of transformation, of leaving things that matter behind, of being interrupted of the life you had, of being deprived of a basic human right. If I hadn't processed that beginning to end, I would probably be very unable to help other people through their own mental drama. If I hadn't processed my fertility journey beginning to end, I don't think I would have been ready to help other women through their journey. And so I invite you to look at emotional pain as this uncomfortable moment of life that you're going to go through because you're human, and that you're going to have the courage to feel it fully because you don't want to lose connections from you, from others, that the risk of being alive is high in emotional pain, as well as happiness, as well as gratitude, and all these other beautiful emotions, and that they make us the next version of who we are. We're in constant state of transformation. And there's no better way of you. There is no better version of you. My life is divided by when I almost died, when my dad was kidnapped, when I moved to Canada, when I was trying to become a mom, when I lost my baby, it's marked by episodes, chapters. And I can look back the first 10 years of my life and say, that was the best me before I almost died. Because the lessons that came after I almost died, like it made me honestly who I am today. Many of my life perceptions were born my second birth, what I call my second birth. And I realized life was so fragile. I became so mindful. And I was only 10 when I had to move here and learn a new language and go to school and work. And like my privileged life came to an end so quickly for some period of time. I'm back to being in a privileged life that I built. When I was going through those, I didn't think twice. I rolled out my sleeves and I did what I had to do while crying every single morning when I woke up to feel my emotion fully. I had a box of Kleenex. The first 8 months of me being in Canada, I cried and I counted them. There were 8 months, every single morning. I had a box of Kleenex right next to my bed. I'll remember that I am awake. The moment I had that awareness, I began to cry, feeling like the saddest I've ever felt, because I was derooted from my family, from my home, from my culture, from my language, my weather. My choice was not to be here. I was derooted, but I had to be here. And as much great gratitude as I had, and as phenomenal as my life has been since I moved to Canada, I still feel pain about not having the opportunity to just phone up my brothers and meet them for coffee, because that life event separated us. We're in 5 different countries. I still feel angry. That's unfair that most people get to be raised in the country they were born with their families around. And I don't. That my son doesn't get to know what it was like to grow up in this beautiful country. He gets a completely different experience, which is not good or bad. It's just different. And I grieve that. But it made me the version of me who I am today. Was I better before? No, I was the best version then. And I continue to always be the best version of me. So the fear of emotional pain is stopping you from growth, is stopping you from making decisions that could potentially make you incredibly happy. I got a mom who called me once and said, after she had a miscarriage, and she said, Olga, how have you done this? 8 times, you crazy woman. And I didn't even think twice of my answer. It just came out. I texted this back and I said, because love is stronger than fear. And I want you to remember that. Love is and always will be stronger than fear. If you don't believe me, put it to test. Choose to love your moment, even if it freaking sucks. Can you love it? You can choose love. If you can't love it, can I choose love? Do I like doing laundry? No, I don't. But when I choose to do it lovingly, it goes by, it's not so bad. It goes by fast. I don't suffer. So one of my mentors in mindfulness always said, Olga, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Don't suffer on top of your emotional pain. Choose otherwise because you can. That's my huge rant on fear of emotional pain. It's useless. It's normal to have it. And if you do have it, do something about it, like make a decision today that is worth it. It's worth to be in emotional pain, because that means that you had an amazing experience prior to that. That means that you chose to connect to somebody that you love so much. And if you lost them, it hurt so deeply, but that connection was worth it. I think of that about every embryo I've ever created. I think of that as I didn't love my dad being kidnapped. I didn't love having to move to Canada. I didn't love any of that in the moment, but I was certainly willing to feel the emotion. And I do love who I am today. So I hope this is helpful to you. I welcome you to have comments, to reach out to me if you've got more questions. Again, I want to invite you to partake in my Reset Your Mindset program. All we do here is actually reset some of the thoughts that stop us from showing up presently into our life, like having a thought that says emotional pain is bad, avoid it at all costs. That's a problematic thought that leads to more emotional pain. So let's make you aware of what kind of thoughts you're thinking, what kind of beliefs you're having that stop you from being a happy human, calm human, confident human. I want to walk you from self-critical, self-restricting, fearful you to a confident you. Everybody wants to be confident. And I not only want to, I am, and I want to walk you there with me. I want to walk with you. Okay, that's it. See you guys next Monday. Bye-bye. Confidence is about taking empowered action with consistency. If you are done wishing you had more confidence with fill out the blank, and if you're ready to put an end to the bully that lives inside your mind, I want to invite you to my next Detox the Mind 5-day workshop, where you will learn proven strategies to go from self-critical to self-confident. For $97, you get 5 days of live coaching calls with me, workbooks to go along with your lessons, and teachings that will literally transform your life. This workshop will break you free from the prison of your own thoughts. Our next workshop begins April 11th, and you can join the waiting list today. Head over to the show notes or my website and make sure you add your name so you can be notified as soon as we open for registrations. I hope to see you inside.